All right, folks, get ready, because today we're going to unpack this super cool paper on image representation. Like, seriously, this one's pushing the limits. And you know what we're talking about. Diffusion-based autoencoders.
Definitely exciting stuff. This paper, Sample What You Can't Compress, or SWYCC for short, is shaking things up when it comes to image compression, especially how we preserve those fine details that usually get lost when you compress an image.
You know, like when you shrink down a pic to save space and ends up looking all blurry, why is it that traditional autoencoders, especially those GAN-based ones, struggle with that?
It's all about how they learn. See, they rely on these things called pixel-level losses, like MSE mean squared error.
I see.
Yeah, it's good for getting the basic structure of an image, but it kind of smooths over those subtle details, the textures, the sharp edges, stuff that makes an image pop.
It's like trying to recreate a masterpiece painting from one of those blurry thumbnails. You'll get the basic shapes, but you lose all the amazing detail.
Exactly, and that's where SWYCC comes in. They came up with this brilliant idea. Why even try to compress what you could instead regenerate?
Ooh, okay, hold on. Tell me more about that. How do you sample those details rather than compressing them?
Okay, so picture this. You've got this perfectly clear pool of water, and then you let a single drop of ink fall in.
Okay, got it. I'm imagining it.
That ink spreads, right? It diffuses throughout the water until the whole pool is like a uniform color.
I'm with you.
Well, a diffusion model basically reverses that. It learns how to take that murky, diffused state and, step by step, remove the noise until it reconstructs the original ink drop.
So it's like SWYCC is training a diffusion model to understand those tiny details, those ink drops that make an image look sharp.
Exactly. And instead of cramming all that info into the compressed version, it just gives the diffusion model enough to recreate those details later on.
That's actually genius. Why bother compressing everything when you can teach a model to rebuild it perfectly?
Yep. And the results are pretty amazing, let me tell you. They found that SWYCC consistently beats the best GAN-based autoencoders out there in terms of reconstruction quality, especially when you're compressing a lot.
Okay, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Our listeners love efficiency, so this is huge. But how do you even measure reconstruction quality? Do you just look at it and say, yeah, that one looks better?
Well, they use this metric called CMMD. It stands for Conditional Multiscale Mean Discrepancy.
CMMD, catchy.
Yeah, I know. It's a mouthful. But the important thing is CMMD lines up really well with how we actually see images. So a higher CMMD score means it looks more realistic, closer to the original.
That's what I like to hear. But were there any other, cool tricks or techniques in SWYCC that contributed to this? I'm curious about the nitty-gritty stuff.
One thing that caught my eye was this two-part decoder they used. Basically, they split the decoding into two stages, dinitial and define. It's kind of like a relay race.
Oh, I like where this is going. Two decoders working together, like a tag team. What's the advantage of that?
So dinitial goes first and focuses on the low-frequency info, the basic stuff like shapes and colors. It sets the stage, right?
So it's like the rough draft.
Yeah. Exactly. Then derefine swoops in and adds all the high-frequency goodness on top, the textures, edges, all the stuff that really brings it to life.
It's like the initial sketches the outline, and then derefine comes in with the details. Pretty cool.
And get this two-part thing doesn't just make the images look better, it actually makes the whole training process way faster.
Faster and better. Okay, I'm sold. But you know what really gets me going? Thinking about what else we could do with this beyond just images.
Right.
If it can handle those details so well, imagine what it could do for other data-heavy fields. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. This whole sample what you can't compress idea could be huge for how we store and transmit all kinds of data.
Think about genomics with all that DNA data, or astronomy with those massive telescopes collecting crazy amounts of data from space.
Totally. And it's not even just about storing and moving data. This could change how we process it too, especially in machine learning.
Machine learning, okay. Now you have my full attention.
Imagine training AI models on compressed data that still has everything it needs but is much faster to work with.
So faster training times, smaller AI models, maybe even totally new algorithms built specifically for this kind of representation.
Exactly. We could be looking at a whole new era of data science and AI.
And did they actually use any specific metrics to, measure how good these generated images are?
Yeah, they use something called FID, which is fresh at inception distance. Basically, it tells you how close a generated image is to a bunch of real ones.
So a lower FID score means more realistic, more diverse images.
Exactly. And what they found was that these SWYCC-based models got much lower FID scores than GAN-based ones, especially when compressing a lot.
That's incredible. So not only can SWYCC compress and reconstruct images super well, but it also opens up all these new doors for making completely new, high-quality images too. This really feels like a game changer. But I'm curious about the visualizations. Did the paper include any figures that really show the difference between SWYCC and the GAN baseline?
For sure. Figures 1, 2, and 3 are the ones to check out.
All right, everyone, you don't need to go flipping through the paper right now. We'll walk you through it.
Yeah.
So let's start with figure 1. What's that one all about?
Figure 1 is all about reconstruction quality. And honestly, the difference is huge. You can see right away how SWYCC keeps those crisp details, even when you're compressing a ton, while the GAN results look, well, kind of blurry.
It's like comparing a high-res photo to one that's been resized a million times and lost all its detail. You can really see the difference. What about figure 2?
Figure 2 is all about the image generation side. It shows how much better SWYCC-based models are at making those high-quality, diverse images, especially when you're really pushing the compression limits.
So it basically proves the point that SWYCC doesn't just store information well, it makes it easy to work with for all sorts of creative stuff. Love it. What about figure 3? What's going on there?
Figure 3 gives you this great close-up comparison of reconstructions at a specific compression level. You can really see how SWYCC nails those tiny textures and fine details that the GAN-based autoencoder just can't handle.
It really is those small details that make all the difference. SWYCC seems to be killing it in that department. This technology is super impressive, but I also have to ask about its limitations. Did they mention any downsides or challenges with SWYCC?
Good point. Every technology has its quirks. One thing they did point out is that the decoding part, where you actually create the image from the compressed version, takes a bit more computing power than traditional methods.
So, higher quality, but potentially slower. Is there any way to speed that up?
Absolutely. There's a lot of research happening right now on making diffusion models faster.
Oh, like what?
There's some really cool stuff like progressive distillation, where you basically make a bunch of simpler diffusion models that can generate rough versions of the image super fast.
So it's like breaking down a complex task into smaller, faster steps.
Yeah. And then there's InstaFlow, which tries to find shortcuts in the diffusion process itself. It's all about making that journey from noise to image way more efficient.
That's awesome. It sounds like researchers are really on top of it, constantly finding ways to make this technology faster and better.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're just scratching the surface here. As this research keeps going, I bet we'll see even more creative ways to tackle these computational challenges.
And that just makes me even more excited about the possibilities of SWYCC. We've been talking about images this whole time, but if it can handle that kind of data so well, just imagine what it could do for other fields.
Right. It's like this whole sample what you can't compress thing could totally change how we deal with data in general.
Totally. Like we were talking about genomics earlier, with all that DNA data. Or what about astronomy? Those huge telescopes collect an insane amount of information. Could SWYCC help with that kind of stuff?
Definitely. And it's not just about storing it either. This could change how we understand and use that data too. It could revolutionize fields like, well, we already mentioned it, but machine learning.
Yeah, machine learning. This is what really blows my mind.
Right. Imagine if we could train AI on this compressed data. It would still have all the good stuff, but it'd be way easier and faster to work with.
So we could potentially train AI faster, build more efficient models, and maybe even come up with completely new algorithms.
You got it. We might be looking at a whole new chapter in AI and data science, all thanks to this idea of sampling what you can't compress.
Mind-blowing. It's incredible to see how fast technology is moving. Like, we're not just processing information anymore, we're understanding it on a whole other level.
It's pretty wild, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, a huge thank you to you for breaking this all down for us. This has been an awesome deep dive into the world of diffusion-based autoencoders.
My pleasure.
And to all of you amazing listeners out there, thanks for joining us. We hope this sparked your curiosity and got you excited about the future of this game-changing technology. Until next time, keep those minds hungry for knowledge. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.